Good morning, Smite fans, and welcome back for day 2 of Super Regionals. And I believe we actually just saw this guy up on that screen for a second with that Sennheiser promo. I want to say quick shout-outs, by the way, to Sennheiser for providing the audio that makes this LAN event possible, as well as all of our broadcasts. But more importantly, I am joined here today by Anatoly and Mr. Jeff Hinla himself. And how are you guys feeling today?
Feeling pretty good, honestly. I'm really surprised that you're here. Jeff, how can you be in 2 places at once?
Magic. It's just support magic, man. We're always there.
Well, a little bit of that Sennheiser magic, or that support magic, I should say, actually coming through yesterday for you guys. Congratulations one more time on that. But we also do actually have a little bit of Sennheiser action going on for you guys back at home. You can use code hi-rez to receive 10% off of any Sennheiser headset and maybe a free GSA 50 headset.
Going off really well there, the performance from you guys yesterday. How does it feel now to kind of relax until Sunday?
It feels great. There's so much like stress relief, right? Like I just get to hang out, I get to watch games, I get to study other teams, and we made it. We're good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you guys are got to be feeling pretty excited about that because, of course, everybody knows what happens with your matches yesterday. But for you guys back at home, you got to make sure that you're getting in your votes on those FP tickets, because if you're getting your votes in, you want to make sure you're getting those fantasy points. That's the most important part. In all the matches that we have happening today, all the matches that'll be happening on Friday and Saturday, make sure you get those ticket votes in because everybody wants their fantasy points.
How did your fantasy points go for yesterday? Did you expect the United over Trifecta?
Yeah, we scrim United, they're our scrim partners, and they're just a sick team. We knew they were going to win for sure.
And of course, I mean, it's great that you guys had everything sorted out for NA, but EU is going to be a little bit of a different story. But the important factor here as well is you guys already qualified for Worlds, and for everybody else back at home, that's what this is really all about. The teams today that are playing as well, they're going to be looking to try and make it to Worlds. But if you want to find your own path to Worlds, hi-rezexpo.com, use that code SPL25, save yourself 25%.
Jeff already saving himself 100% from qualifying after yesterday here. Your 4th time appearance alongside Jeff Hinla. Oh, I'm sorry, alongside Barracuda. Jeff with Jeff, yep.
Yeah, no, it's sick. I love playing with Barra, and I'm really glad we made it again.
I mean, that's what this is really all about, is just the fact that everybody gets to have another hoorah event with each other. But, of course, that's not the only fun part about Worlds and everything else we have going on. You can also still purchase, actually, those past champion skins. And if you're not able to make it into hi-rez yourself, you can also make sure to check it out in your hometown nearby. We'll be bringing it back to the Coke Theaters. I know some of you guys might have actually done that last year already, but pretty fun time, pretty fun reviews from everybody that I saw actually head to those Coke Theaters.
Just hang out in the studios, hang out here with us, hang out also in the YouTube videos where we actually have a video of a backstage performance. You can also hang out in the lounging in the Coke Theaters, and I know you're going to be lounging out there in the audience alongside all of us here.
Yeah.
And, well, Jeff
just lounging around.
Just hanging out, relaxing.
Everything, that's what it's all about. Yep. But no relaxing for today, at least not for EU. Jeff might get a break, but these guys are having to pretty much stay on their tiptoes for this one. A lot of interesting matches coming out for today. Take a look at the bracket really quick here. You can see it's going to be Obey versus Elevate to start things off, and then we've got Dig versus Rival later on in the day.
It's going to be a really interesting day. If yesterday wasn't interesting enough with the best of 5 set between you guys, this day today specifically, Obey against Elevate should be a little interesting, considering that Elevate is always this wild card factor. You never really know what to truly expect out of them. And Dignitas against Rival is going to be really spicy here. 2 top-tier caliber Worlds teams going at it.
And that's, I think, probably one of the more exciting factors about Dignitas facing off against Rival. We've seen these 2 teams clash at it multiple times. Now they're really getting an opportunity to seal the deal, because this is going to be the automatic qualifier to Worlds, whoever comes out on top here.
How are you expecting the second set, specifically Dignitas against Rival, to go against?
So I'm giving this to, I'd give it to Dig. Dig's always shown up. They're a strong team. I know all the players individually, super skilled, and their teamwork's just been amazing. But Rivals, they're land monsters, right? They have the picks. They have Ares. Like it's hard to play against Rival. They're a really strong team, but I think they're just going to take it.
You can never really count out Rival. The way they were performing in the Summer Valencia, facing off against Dignitas in the finals there. You know, even though they lost the first 2, they were able to bounce back mentally. They really went the distance there, bringing it to game number 5. And the way they've been kind of playing LAN versus online, you could definitely tell there's a different aura about them once they get to Georgia.
I think a really big thing to see is, all right, so if you're down 0-2 and you can win 2 games, that just means your team's solid, right? Like you can bounce back from losses. You can identify what's going wrong in the game and fix it.
But your set specifically yesterday, both you guys and Space Station kept winning and then losing, but then it didn't matter if you guys lost. You were able to bounce back. How come?
Like I just said, you have to always be like, okay, what went wrong? What's going right? How do we fix this? Was this actually an issue? Was this not an issue? Can we deal with this? No, we got to ban it. We got, like, our start's good. Like, what? You just have to look at everything and not be like, oh no, we lost. Like, how do we get better?
Is that a team collective effort from you guys, or is there like one specific player that kind of rallies everybody?
It's definitely a team collective. Everyone looks at it that way, right? Like, just you can't get down just because you lost. Like, you still have to play and you have to win the next game.
Well, of course, constantly adapting is something that you just get used to at a competitive level, and that's certainly something that Dignitas and both Rival are really going to keep in mind for later on today. But of course, before we can even watch Dignitas versus Rival, we got to start off somewhere, and we're starting off with Obey versus Elevate. Jeff, you already touched on this. You think that Elevate is one of those teams where they're solid all around, but most importantly, you seem like you can never really tell what to expect from them.
All right, so Jermain's been insane. I've been talking to Barra and Panda Cat a bit, and they think this guy's nuts. He's one of the best hunters in the game. He's just been crazy all year, or recently. And on top of that, we have Dardez bringing out Nox. Nox basically beats every Guardian that's not Geb. I want to see that today.
He's just such a mechanical beast, and he's got the confidence to boot on top of that. Always spamming the VELs, taunting away, even stealing away some objectives every now and then with just a simple Astral Arrow. And his laning partner, Dardez, like you were talking about, that Nox support is going to provide that wildcard factor that you really can't expect anything out of that duel lane.
As insane as Jermain and Dardez have been known to be when it comes to competitive matches, you can never really count out Ataraxia or EmilZy. Both of those players, Ataraxia in particular, he's only improved, and it's very evident in his gameplay that this is probably the most confident he's ever felt.
That's true. There's definitely a different feeling of Ataraxia of yesteryear in Season 3 compared to Season 4 here. Feeling more confident here, getting to the finals and, you know, going the distance in game number 4 here against Energy, but not able to really bring it back home. I think that this year is also a little bit of a turnaround for Ataraxia.
Well, Ataraxia has been playing forever, right? He's always been relatively strong, and he's been looking better and better. And he has a team around him now that entire team, they think, they prepare, they try things out, and I mean, he's just been playing great.
And clearly it doesn't matter who in the solo lane it is, you know, whether it's going to be Variety, Maniac, or now Xaliea here. They're here to stay, and they're here performing really well here. Ataraxia there on your screen, seeing the difference between Season 3 and 4. And I think that this time is his time to make Worlds yet again.
And third time's the charm. That's what everybody seems to be saying when it comes to Ataraxia, PrettyPriMe. And most particularly, I mean, CaptainTwig, you mentioned Ataraxia has been playing forever, but Twig is also another one of those players who's just been around the scene for so long. And so for today's matches against Elevate, how do you think that that's really going to affect his mentality?
Well, Twigs has been the most playing LAN player, rather, in all of NA and Europe combined here. The way he's just been all over the place. He has the most experience no matter what lane he's playing, honestly. And this is going to be a tough challenge for Elevate with how much experience not only Twig has, but collectively with all Obey Alliance together.
Actually, experience is a huge thing, right? The more you play at LAN, the more games you get under your belt. It's not this nerve-wracking, crazy experience. You're like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to play my game. I understand what's going on. And you hit a certain point where you get to LAN and you view almost the computer screen differently. Like, it almost becomes like you're at your house.
You're just basically embodied into
it. So Twig's definitely there. He knows what's going on. He's ready to go.
But on Elevate side of things, if they come in here trying to play their game, but if they get stopped and something changes, how do you expect them to make those adaptations, considering there's quite a different telltale sign of the amount of games that they've played on LAN?
I mean, they're definitely a strong team, right? And they're here for a reason. So they might not have as much experience, but I mean, you just got to change on the fly. You got to adapt.
Well, you talk about full immersion when it comes to having that sort of LAN experience, but somebody who might not have as much LAN experience as CaptainTwig, but certainly has plenty of the gameplay mechanics, it's actually Cherryo, and this guy is an absolute LANimal. I mean, he gets it time and time again. Every single time he's ever made an appearance at the studios, his gameplay shoots out the roof, and a lot of people probably credit it to the fact that he's finally on Zero King.
That's true. He's made the switch. You know, he was playing with the weighted clothing training in some other animes that you might check him out here. And now going into the land, he's taken off all this weighted clothing, and he's here to stay.
And when you think about Cherryo and everything like that, I mean, it's always important to consider from the player mentality. Jeff, I'm sure you do that all the time, but I want to get a little bit of insight from Cherryo's perspective.
Well, Dardez thinks we'll get 08. We'll lose 3-0 to Obey and then lose all our Gauntlet games. He thinks it'll be funny, but I have more hopes. I think it's like, if we lose first game, we'll lose to Obey. But if we don't, I think we'll win. It's not like a gameplay thing, it's just motivation-wise. Like Jermain and Dardez had a lot of motivation because like new environment. Same with me, I guess new environment is always good for everyone. And then Panther was like coming from a really bad team. I think he would agree, like Sanguine and Burrito. So he had so much motivation to like actually do well. First time he thinks he can win on this team. Dardez never plays meta stuff. Like I don't remember the last time he played Terra or Fafnir. Like he hates playing meta picks. Never play Artio either. It's like he just wants to play out of meta stuff. So when he said Noct, I was like, yeah, sure. And it already fits my playstyle, you know, setup gods. Every team has like one person who dictates how the game goes. They just don't want to play other stuff. So when let's say Raffer wants not to play Fafnir or Trix doesn't want to play Fafnir, you know, they're not allowed. I like janky stuff. He was like, I actually beg him to play more janky stuff. He doesn't want to. I tell him to play Nemesis, Naja. He doesn't really like it that much. Told him Morrigan, Jonqui, but I told him to play Hunter. He was excited for that one, but we never get to play it. That's it. Like you could kind of honestly, you can play any support in the game, any mid laner in the game if you just have a strat around it. And we just like, if someone feels comfortable with a god, we'll try to make it work.
Well, Cherryo certainly seems comfortable with his team at least. That's a very bold statement he made in his video as well. If we win game one, we take out Obey.
I mean, that's exactly what Luminosity did, right? They won the first game against Space Station, and they took out your opposition.
Winning game one's huge in the set, right? Because, all right, so if you win game one, they get to pick game two. But if you lose game two, then you pick game three, and then you always kind of get your preference after that, right? Like you win, and then you just always get to pick first or second, whatever you prefer.
It just seems that the meta, there's an internal meta during a best-of-5 set that always changes. I feel, if I remember correctly here, that first game, the picks and bans for you guys just zoomed so quickly through. Both you guys already knew what you wanted to pick and play, but then as the set kind of progressed, that's when you kind of slow down the brakes and really try to calculate every pick.
Yeah, no, like you said, there's a meta that goes on inside of the set. Like, we know exactly what we want. Oh, that worked. Oh, that didn't work. What they banned, how'd they change it? And then it just kind of evolves into its own thing. That's one of the most interesting parts about best of fives specifically, right? Because in best of threes, you get it to a smaller extent, but in 5 games, the last set of picks are generally pretty different from the first set.
And of course, when it comes to a LAN environment as well, I mean, I feel as though you guys especially were really prioritizing mask and Baskin selections. And here, I think that could sort of be the same story, I think, for a lot of these other teams. And how do you think it's going to affect Elevate? Because Cherryo touched on it briefly in his video. He was like, DeathPanter is coming from a different team, like not as great of a team environment with the whole Burrito transition back over. So how do you think that's going to affect it now that they're finally getting a LAN experience with each other?
I mean, they're just going to it seems like they're going to prioritize what they're comfortable with, what they like, not what's the meta. So that's going to be really interesting because it could turn into a situation where they're basically blind picking, right? If the other team doesn't prioritize what they love and what they want, they get their entire comp.
Well, DeathPanter is almost in the same boat as Aquarius in terms of joining this team as Aquarius joined your team, and you guys kind of let Aquarius do his own thing, right?
Yeah. Aqua knows what he likes. We trust Aqua completely, and it seems like that's the case there too.
And I mean, that's always a great factor to have behind the team when you can trust your teammate to just picking whatever and knowing that they're most likely going to perform with it. And I also want to ask you, Jeff, when you're looking at a team like Elevate versus Obey, what do you think really needs to happen other than them winning the first game, like Cherryo mentioned? How do you see them taking this set away?
So basically what it is you have a team that's, very successful and they're good to go, and you have a team that's a little less proven, right? The best way for them to win or Elevate to win is you guys don't know about this. here's what we got in our here's what we got in our back pocket, and that, I think that's generally how they're going to win.
Well, we get a chance here to find out whether or not there are going to be some pocket pick strats coming out from Elevate, as they're actually going to be their first pick selection, so they also get the first choice of bans. Tolly, what are you expecting to see here?
I'm expecting them to kind of prioritize around that synergy between mid, jungle, and support. Try to get the core 3-on-3 online. Maybe look for early pressure in the mid lane.
Yeah, early pressure mid right now is very strong, right? Because once you get the pressure in mid, you can basically, oh, do we need help on solo? Do we need help on duo? Who's winning? Where can we recover? What can we bully? So yeah.
As a team collectively, though, after getting that mid pressure, would you rather try to snowball a winning matchup in one of the lanes, or try to make sure you don't get one losing matchup out of control?
I think it really depends on the gods that you are. If you have two gods that are really good at snowballing, like Thanatos or Ravana, just beat that side. Let the other side go away.
Something we didn't actually see in that game was the Blink Raven play from Mass that actually engaged that at level 2, allowing Aquarius to get that early double kill, which you guys just ran away with after that.
I didn't even know it was a double kill. I just heard them screaming, and then I looked at the scoreboard. I'm like, oh, we're good. We got this.
Well, I've already seen a couple of bans, though, that Obey doesn't want to take any chances with Elevate having Athena and Najam, most particularly because Cherryo plays both of those.
That's very true. That Guardian jungle can set up so many opportunities for the mid player that it could maybe even allow DeathPanter to almost play anything he wants.
Yeah. All right. So when you have a magical jungler, it opens up your mid to play hunters, assassins, any type of physical, which is insane for early pressure.
Well, when you see Elevate prioritizing Artio, do you think that there's any possibility that this could potentially be for the jungle?
It's something we've touched on a little bit. I think if you can go Blink Artio, her setup's insane. So yeah, there's definitely a good chance, and we see the Xing 10 and Hui, so I mean, it's probably solo, but there's a chance.
It's a lot of flex, honestly, for Elevate. Knowing Dardez, he can honestly play the Xing Chen. He can even maybe play the Artio if they want to do a kill lane, potentially. But look at what Obey Alliance have elected to do early in this draft. They prioritize the Cabrakan right off the bat. Now, Xaliea loves this god. He used to actually run it almost exclusively back when Purple Pod can be purchased at level 1. But I think this is also a strategy of maybe taking it away from Elevate.
So I definitely think it's both those things, right? Xaliea is great at it, and to take it away from Elevate, but what I really like right now is you have a Cabrakan who can wall people in, lock them in. You have a Sylv who's got this big AoE ult, and you have Raijin who can just free cast on everything. They lock people out, they knock them up, and then that's it. Anyone in that range is going to explode.
And even though Elevate has that Hui, I mean, as a support player yourself, or even as a general guy that messes around with Cabrakan has a pretty easy time still chasing after that Hui, doesn't he?
Yeah, you hit one, you just go faster.
I mean, you get the walrus hands once you pop that one, honestly. And there's a lot of just protection for PrettyPriMe to get that free cast in that you were talking about. Once he goes in those drums, he has such long-range artillery, but now trying to protect him even further by stripping away a Ymir from Elevate, despite having already a Xing Chen and an Artio. Elevate have been known sometimes to get 3 really beefy frontliners to allow their backlines to free cast.
Honestly, the big thing I'm looking at here is the Sylv and Cab into the Artio, right? Both of them deal well with Artio, and Artio doesn't hurt them that bad, right? Because Sylv can't move anyway. He's not worried about the crippled. Cab really isn't worried about the cripple, and they can lock her down and keep her just there to take damage.
Would you be a little bit concerned, though, about that possibility that the Hui slow from his ultimate could pose a large threat to the Raijin or the Sylvanus?
Absolutely, because so when Sylv, Cabrakan, and Raijin, when they're casting, they're kind of locked in place, right? So Hui ult can get a ton of value. If they're going for like the setup like I was talking about earlier, I mean, Hui ult's just gonna take hit full duration on it.
And I mean, that's just one of those things where it's kind of one of those risks you have to take just to figure out how it's going to work. That's one of the beauties of a best of 5 as well. You kind of get a freebie game, or maybe even 2, to test things out a little bit.
Obey banning away this Rama, something that we actually haven't seen you guys in your set even prioritize in picks. You guys wanted to go for Hachiman, a Muzen Cobb instead. And talk to me why the decline of Rama, or at least in the North American side.
He's got a good level 1 wave clear, but I mean, AMC is just so nuts, right? And then when you kind of transition out of that, Hachiman's got a little bit more utility. Rom's still a really good pick, but it's just not a priority for us.
Gotcha.
Well, seeing that Izanami locked away, what do you think, Jeff, personally, about Obey's starting points with the Izanami Sylvanus?
Pressure. They kill creeps really good.
It's just, you think that this is just going to be a focal? Do you see them choosing to clear the dual lane first and then look for the invade, possibly?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility, especially with a comp like that, right? Where you can sit on tower line. You can't really fight it because Sylv's great at fighting. If Izzy gets her one, she has a great fight as well.
There's just no potential to body block against Izanami and Sylvanus. Both of their in-hands are going to AoE.
But wouldn't it be kind of problematic for Izanami to be picked straight into that Hu Yi?
It could be, right? You do reveal it, I think, after the 3rd level of Mark of the Golden Crow or something like that. And also has to
It actually just reveals right away
Oh,
now,
right away now
from the
at
first
level
level.
1. There's also some damage over time with Xing Chen's Furious Roar that could easily reveal her after the stealth. So there needs to be more positional awareness from Ataraxia.
I definitely think those are parts of the matchup, but they're just looking to snowball. They're looking, we have clear, we're going to clear it, and then we're going to go sit on your buffs.
Fafnir. Something says Artio jungle in Elevate's draft. It could be Xing 10 jungle still. The crazy thing about Elevate is they just have so much flexibility. Even when you see 3 Guardians thrown up on their team, you never really know which direction they're headed.
Nemesis last picked for Obey Alliance. That's a good way to blow up Artio. You're trying to get that absolute protection shred.
Yeah, if Artio gets caught in a Cab 1 and a Nemult, she's done.
And I mean, either way, though, when you're looking at both of these drafts respectively, who would you probably favor to have?
I like Elevate's draft a lot.
Ooh. Well, I'm actually going to lean a little bit towards Obey Alliance. I think the longer these team fights last, the more beneficial Sylvanus sustain will be.
Well, we get a chance now to finally see what exactly and who's going where, more importantly. And now it's going to be the casters taking us straight into game number 1.
Thank you, Taco. Finch and Graham here for you. We got Obey going up against Elevate. Game 1 of a 5-game set. Graham, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. This one, though, is going to be very interesting. It's going to come down to the junglers in game 1. More than likely, with how these are lining up. Nemesis against 3 Guardians.
Yes.
It's Christmas Day. Steal all those stats away. Make yourself nice and tanky. Destroy them. Make them paper thin. Then across the way, though, looks like we're going to be seeing Artio. I'm expecting Artio in the jungle here.
Yeah.
We'll see how this works out. Obviously, it's Cherryo. Cherryo does jank sometimes, like these crazy things. He always does it land.
Yeah, that's what Cherryo likes to do when he gets here, you know, and he's maybe got a little bit more stable than he's used to. Yeah. Sometimes he plays from Egypt, so it's a little bit rough for him. But here, you know, he'll be able to be on Nemesis, or not, he won't be on Nemesis, but there's going to be a Nemesis in the game that could create some trouble for him. As we were looking at the comp, we knew it was going to be very tanky. That's what Elevate like to do. They like to go that way. And I think that's going to be a real big factor here for him. But another place, the solo lane, Graham.
Yeah, the solo lane is going to be interesting because of No Numbers versus Xaliea.
Yeah.
Now, Xalia's been around for a while. No Numbers has had a good season too. They're both playing Guardians, though. And the Guardian matchup I'm expecting is going to be, Xing 10 versus Cabrakan in the solo lane. It's going to be a farm fest. Guardians can't really kill each other without support from the jungle. You look in the jungle and you're seeing, an Artio, which it can pin you down a little bit. But against a Guardian, I don't think it's going to have the damage to bring it down. Nemesis, on the other hand, CaptainTwig, could be the dictator of pace here.
And talking about that Artio, Jeff mentioned something that I thought was really interesting too. Perhaps going with that blink on the Artio and that being able to sort of initiate in and start something up. And then Artio has a lot of lockdown. So that's something that I think could probably be a pretty big factor here.
Definitely. Artio's lockdown can be useful, but the reason I'm bringing up the Nemesis so much is because with Nemesis, Artio wants to stay in a team fight. She survives a team fight by being very tanky, but also sustaining herself. Yeah. The problem is that if you take away one of those 2 factors from her god pool, which is the tankiness in this case with Nemesis, you're not going to live very long. That sustain will not power you through enough. So Cherryo's going to be careful because he's going to be in melee range a lot against the Nemesis. That's going to pin you down a little bit more. So Cherryo's got a lot of pressure on himself today. The solo laners, though, Xaliea versus No Numbers is going to be a long one to watch throughout this whole series. This first game is going to be really focused around how each other feel each other out more than anything else.
It feels like those long lanes are going to be the focus here for me, too. I mean, I agree the jungle is going to be high impact, but Taco kind of got a second to start talking about it, that Hu Yi Izanami matchup there between those hunters. When Izanami tries to go into that stealth mark of the Golden Girl, and he's going to be able to follow it. It'll be that much easier. So yeah, he might have a way to knock it down a little bit or kind of limit Izanami, but Izanami's super strong too.
Wave clear is what it's down for Obey overall as well.
Yeah.
If you actually look through the whole roster, the only one that's got lackluster wave clear to an extent is the Nemesis. But everybody else, very, very strong in terms of wave clear advantages here. It's early pressure from Obey. They're going to be feeling each other out, like I said, but obviously Elevate will always focus around the duo lane. The Bruise Brothers, as we dictate. The French powerhouses, Dardez and Jermain. Get them ahead and look for them to snowball this game.
Well, wherever that focus ends up being, we do have that game ready here for you. We got Elevate going up against Obey Alliance. Things are looking about how we expected, as Cherryo is taking the Artio, but it's DeathPanter who's on that Hui, which makes sense. We didn't even get a chance to talk about it. We saw that Uller late picked in there for him, so yeah,
Well,
they're going to have to take one to the mid.
I mean, Ul could have gone mid. It could have been either or, but I do like the fact that DeathPanter's on this in the mid lane. He's showed his Hui before with these ricochet combinations. Also in the mid lane, you can technically triple bounce. We saw some of it out of Snoopy yesterday on some rotations when he was playing Hui. In the jungle fights, you kind of do want ricochets in the area. It's very much like, in a weird way, a sort of Anher is what Hui's like in terms of the jungle presence, because the ricochets and the sun's raining down cause so much area control and probability of kills.
Yeah, that's exactly what Hui sort of fills in when he goes to that mid range, is that big AoE damage that you like to look for the mid mages. So that's what we're seeing. We've got actually the duo lane start over in duo, but it's just no numbers over here in solo lane alone. They've actually sent a little bit of help to the mid.
Do actually love what we saw at no numbers there in that right-hand side. He's 2v1 and Xaliea walks up and goes, I'm a pound the ground. And then no numbers goes, you know what? I'm not going to take wave clear. I'm going to get pushed in anyway, but I'm going to delay you by knocking you up and down so your wave clear is not as strong.
That's what he does. He does delay them, but what Elevate does is they go in and invade on that speed buff. So Cherryo's got it around his waist, but the counter down here on blue.
But it means that Elevate are slightly ahead in this because of what no numbers did in that solo lane. It means that blue buff should go down around the same time as speed if we're lucky. It's going to take a little bit longer, I guess, with Cherryo there. Dude just doing it on his own. But for the time being, you can see EmilZy and Ataraxia did take away the red buff at the moment. Dardez, Jermain, got to fight back.
And that's what it is. They're meeting over here by the purple buff. Jermain already taken a good bit of damage, but that good return from Uller did get some damage back, but really the trade going in favor of Obey.
Yeah, it went big for Obey because Ataraxia actually beads early on there. The reason he used that beads too was mainly to be able to keep the pressure going. Now Dardez's leap is down. He's rooted in place.
Yeah, they're looking for more pressure. EmilZy, good hammer toss comes out from Dardez to shut down Ataraxia. So despite the sprint being popped, nothing comes from it.
So he's going to be fine for now. The one difference is keep an eye on Jermain. Out of potions right now in terms of health sustain. So he's going to have to dip back in his jungle to use that Bumper's Mask. Cherryo, though, got a bit cheeky. Surrounded by 3 potentially here.
Looking to keep that invade going is Cherryo on the Artio. But with Elevate there, they're able to slow him down. So he's going to have to back off and just come back to DeathPanter and chill in mid.
Yeah, it's going to be okay for the time being, though. This should be pretty much a farm off during the early game. Obey have done okay so far. They've got a bit of pressure on them right now from what Elevate have put on with these double hunters. And the one thing I'm worried about, obviously, with Elevate having 3 Guardians here, one of those Guardians is a Fafnir, which for hunters is the dream, the steroid.
Yeah, that AoE course he's in, the Dragonic Corruption in particular, going to give him a real strong ability to burn objectives. Right now, they're trying to burn these oracles, but Obey came in, they split them, so no one gets the vision.
Sure, and it wasn't really the vision's not too important. The early game goal furies don't really happen anymore, but sharing the experience is the big key. Don't give them a free window of opportunity. That's why the old days we used to see mid-harpy contest so much more.
In particular, though, those neutral camps are where you really kind of start to build that little bit of lead. The farm that no one's guaranteed. That's where you build your advantage. The pull from EmilZy just a little bit off the mark. Jermain able to jump out of there.
And now there's a bit of pressure on the right-hand side, too, around the speed buff area, but no speed buff up just yet. You will see the elementals come up a little bit sooner. Definitely an interesting trade watching these two fight. It is obviously dominant wave clear advantage is for EmilZy and Ataraxia with Sylvanus, and that is an army in tow. They will get overall wave play once the Wisps come online. At level 5, that's the case.
Has anyone told these two teams the duo lane is not so much a duo lane nowadays? I mean, they're old schooling it over here now. And that's where that Sylvanus disdain's coming in big as he goes for the Whirlwind Rage and Steel, but not able to pull Xaliea in.
Twig's in a bit of trouble in the jungle. They get aggressed on a little bit by DeathPanter and Cherryo, but we'll be able to walk away. Big note there with Xaliea did start with beads. He's very aware that he's going to need some CC immunity in this game, especially when you look at the amount of CC that is available for Elevate.
But they actually have a lot of beads on there. Is that going to hurt their team fight presence? Oh, actually, looking to get hurt here is Dardez knocked up. EmilZy takes it off with the dot damage. First blood going to Obey.
Now, we were watching the solo lane for the majority of that, but if you notice, Ataraxia and EmilZy froze the wave in the duo lane to make sure that they had to be in trouble. Hold that fort. More fights going on.
There's the ultimate coming out on the Cherryo to make sure he's in a little bit weakened state, but even with those suns raining down, they'll go ahead and back off. So DeathPanter, not able to find too much, does help protect, though. his jungle.
Now that first blood was very important. I was going to go back to it again because EmilZy Ataraxia throws the wave. They were level 5. It made Jermain and Dardez go, okay, we've got to go and tag these creeps to get some. What ends up happening? They all in commit, pick up a kill, and it's onto Dardez too. Works out well. First blood goes to EmilZy. Not your prime target you're really after. You would have loved it on Ataraxia, but it never hurts. It never hurts having a support get a kill now and again.
And we do see Ataraxia and EmilZy come down and invade that red buff too. So only Jermain was there to try and defend it. So that's another little bit of a gain they're going to get. And their red's just about to respawn. So Ataraxia has some time to back off, wait on his buddy EmilZy to show back up, and they'll be able to get that far.
Now the one thing as well is you were talking about, we've seen the dual lane being a dual lane for the first time in a while. Reason is because Obey know Elevate. Obey know that Jermain is a big dominant factor to deal with.
And he's on an Uller.
And they're going to want to get Jermain ahead. So if they can put him behind, if they can slow down the tempo a little bit and give Ataraxia a lead, it doesn't matter if he's 2v1 in there then. He can just sit back and farm quite happily. And now he's got a 2-level lead, just over 2 levels, I should say, in a good position. Means that they can now just have EmilZy start to rotate to mid and not worry so much about keeping Ataraxia alive.
And it does kind of feel like, because you mentioned, the beats earlier, that Obey feel like they're going to be under pressure. PrettyPriMe looks like he's gone with the Warlock Sash start here on PrettyPriMe, which is a little slow, but lets him get a little bit sturdier.
Healthy. That's all it is. It's about the health more often than not. And you know you're going to be taking a lot of punishment with 3 Guardians involved, plenty of CC too. Go for the healthier option. It does reduce your damage output in the early game, sure, but if you die, you don't do damage.
That's true. You do 0 damage in the base.
It's the reason you see a lot of the tank compositions that we've seen so far, like Hide of the Urchins throughout this year and things like that. If you're dead, you don't do anything. So why not just not die? You might do less damage, but at least you're still doing damage.
EmilZy lurking around the side, gets the root and the knock-up on Jermain. Clean pick-off there from Obey Alliance, making it look easy.
Beautiful, and Jermain didn't even get a chance to beads out of that one too. He did have his beads available, just no opportunity to do so. He didn't expect the amount of burst that was there. Good work from EmilZy, more often than not, and the follow-up from Ataraxia was on point. Trust between these two is so important, and that's what makes a really good dual lane.
And Ataraxia was positioned perfectly there to not give it up, to not give up, to signal what they were trying to do.
Yep.
EmilZy's able to come in, get the root, and like you said, I think part of it was a little bit of that silence too, that just limited the options there for Jermain as they continue to pressure.
And Ataraxia as well, obviously the ultimate coming out from him on Tsunami did get buffed, so he's a little bit quicker on the cast time, which people are still probably trying to get used to. Obviously, these teams would have scrimmed up against his Tsunami to realize it, but so much quicker now that it fires out. It's so much more of a confirmed issue that it makes it trickier to deal with.
Now, Obey Alliance coming to hang around again, trying to put pressure, like you said, in this dual lane. I think that's definitely a focus from them. But it's not even like they're getting that much rotation. Ataraxia and EmilZy have kind of just been winning the 2v2.
I was going to say, can we just take note that it's just a straight-up 2v2 on this left-hand side. Nobody else has paid attention to this. We've seen no rotation out of the junglers whatsoever. This has been a man fight between these two, and the dominant wave clear advantage from EmilZy and Ataraxia has paid dividends for them, as well as the kills until they're looking for more.
Yeah, we see the pings coming out. The red buff is where they want to try and engage. Elevate want to secure it, and Obey want to come over and seal it. This time, PrettyPriMe is going to be a fight. Part of the fight is DeathPanter's already here.
Notice PrettyPriMe checking the corner towards mid just in case there is a rotation coming. They're a little bit concerned because they know that CaptainTwig on the right-hand side is not going to be involved in this fight. In doing so, they relinquish control, realizing it would be a 4v3 and could be a mistake.
I think that was the right call for him, too. EmilZy actually could have the potential to get sandwiched here. Dardez gets the hammer off on him, but nothing more comes. Just going to join him here in mid and soak up a little bit more of that wave. So the action's kind of been on the duo lane side when we kind of thought maybe there might be something going on between Xaliea and No Numbers.
But I expected it. Overall, it will be that case, but this is a fight between Guardian versus Guardian in the solo lane. You know, no one's really going to die over there. And especially because Xaliea has those beads, you know for a fact that if the Whirlwind Rage of Steel comes out from No Numbers, he's just going to beads it and walk away. So continuing the farm off is what we're seeing so far.
And you're right, with those beads, it really feels like Obey Alliance would rather take these smaller 2v2 skirmishes than a big team fight right now where they got to fight into like the sprints and shells that Elevate win with.
But notice how they had control of that red buff for a couple of times, a couple of rotations, and then the third rotation of it, when they see the pressure, instead of trying to force it and continue the, getting the lead that they've had so far, they relinquish it going, you know what? This couldn't be the worst case. However, Jermain could be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, CaptainTwig puts the ultimate, but a good stun comes out to give him a little bit of space. The slow, though, from CaptainTwig is enough for him to get some good poke. I might even be able to get the kill with the shield. He's going in for it, but has to back off.
Just one hit is required, but Jermain will escape. DeathPanter now with the rotation to support, and in comes Elevate round the corner near the purple buff, but they might get caught themselves.
Yeah, they won't have the help from Jermain, who had to back here. So if they do take this fight, they will be at a numbers disadvantage. On the back end is DeathPanter, who had to stay in the lane and try and push out the minions.
I like the rotation in from DeathPanter, though, to support the decision on the left-hand side to get Jermain out of trouble. Very close. One more auto attack, and Jermain would have been completely out of it. They're going to get the Oracles here, Obey, and Cherryo trying to swing around the back. Hasn't done much in this game so far, except farm, which isn't the worst-case scenario. Cherryo will start to swing a little bit harder, going for a bit more of a tankier, damaging build on this Artio.
And we talked about something here earlier, Andy, that I want to touch back on again. Dardez and then DeathPanter Jermain, that objective burn and Elevate have. So even if Obey do kind of get a little bit ahead here, if they're able to make that objective focus, could they get back in this?
Potentially, yeah, but then you look across the way at what Obey have here. PrettyPriMe, it's a pretty good objective secure with those Taiko drums through the wall, you know, from range. Obviously taunts people off, fears them, which means you may unleash the Gold Fury, steal it away. And then you've also got Ataraxia. The ultimate on Ataraxia is pretty damn painful and pins you in place a lot of the time. So even though DeathPanter and Jermain do have good clear with, you know, the likes of having a Fafnir on the team, they've got to be secured about the secure at the end of it. So good zoning is going to be required.
Well, those 2 kills for Obey Alliance, along with superior farming, have netted them about a 2,000 gold lead or so. So they do have a lead here about 10 minutes in. That's not to the point where they couldn't fight in, but it is strong as DeathPanter continues to be aggressed on.
Keep an eye on DeathPanter as well. He's the only one with an Aegis so far this game, so he's not worried about the CC, but Obey could look to try and abuse that every time. DeathPanter didn't know Twig was waiting around the corner, though.
Twig's here to try and find it, but because he's got some help there with him, he's able to back off. PrettyPriMe not quite able to finish it off.
That's surprising. I didn't see PrettyPriMe go straight for the ult after jumping in there. I thought he might go straight for the ult onto DeathPanter. He would have secured him a kill. Obviously, Aegis was available, though. Jermain in trouble again.
Yeah, and now the 2-2 happening. Good pull from EmilZy into the knock-up. Ataraxia finishes that one off. Taiko drums to pull Dardez back in, but there wasn't really any follow-up from the rest of the team. Instead, just go to the red buff.
Jermain is just not having fun in this duel lane. That's been the whole focus from Obey this game. Sylvanus, 2 of the kills out of the 3 so far, obviously, and now the other one finally going to Ataraxia. They're really showing what they can do in this duel lane together. Think about it. EmilZy, you know, and Ataraxia, they've been together a little while now, but they've really become a really defined, well-tuned, oiled machine.
And to me, what makes Sylvanus a viable, like, hot top-tier pick is if you're consistently hitting those pulls. Without it, I feel like he doesn't provide quite enough control. But when you hit those pulls like EmilZy just did, that's when Sylvanus comes up to this top-tier pick.
But EmilZy's noticing how gods are going to be played by certain people as well. You know for a fact when you're against an ult, he's going to leap away. Yeah. You can predict where the leap's going to go to, and the situation Jermain was in, that was the only path, is straight down the corridor.
Don't say it like it's 1 + 1 is 2, though.
It was a great play, but you've got to predict it, and EmilZy's a good enough support player to be able to make those predictions and make it look like a highlight reel play with something that he was like, yeah, I knew he was going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, these are pros for a reason.
That's true. This is the top team card right now over in EU, our Obey Alliance, and they're looking like it up against Elevate, but of course this game is certainly not out of control, as it looks like Cherryo wants to aggress in on EmilZy's already at half health, going into the Draconic Corruption is Dardez, and leaping back in.
I don't know about the commit there from Dardez with that leap. I don't think they could have got more out of that. I did like the aggression, however, coming out from Elevate here. This is where their comp can start to shine, though. You know, the Guardians and the Hunters starting to get some items online now, means the front line can be tanky enough to engage for them, and the Hunters are just left at the back to peel. It's up to Xaliea to cause the problems on the back line.
And that's what we're seeing now. Our solo laners are coming over to have bigger impacts here in these team fights now, Graham.
Well, now the Gold Fury is going to get pulled here from Elevate. I like this call. Keep it on the zone duty. Cherryo and No Numbers both on it. Xaliea needs to get in and contest this. EmilZy's in trouble.
EmilZy tried to use the Wrath of Terror, but it wasn't enough. He actually does still get pulled. Cherryo ends up taking that kill. Sunbreaker comes down over the top to lock him in. DeathPanter trying to look to clean up. Xaliea just pounding the ground. Ends up helping him take down Cherryo.
And the problem is, what can Cherryo do there? You know,
good stun. What?
Pinned in a place. That was a nice shot out of DeathPanter. But yeah, look at what happens to Cherryo. Gets Tremored in place. Protection was shredded. Not much he can do apart from just go down and die. That was the issue with the Nemesis pick at the end. I was expecting a Nemesis ban out of Elevate if they were going to run this triple Guardian. And you know CaptainTwig's going to have it in his god pool.
And they did ban out junglers. They did ban out assassins.
They did.
But they weren't too concerned about this Nemesis pick, I think. And now we're seeing what CaptainTwig can do with it. So yes, that teamfight looked good with them. DeathPanter did exactly what our desk talked about and had the big Sunbreaker on top of everyone. But Xaliea was just too big for him.
Just going to play around a little bit around CaptainTwig. Elevate can do these teamfights still. They're not too far out of this game whatsoever at 30 minutes in. But they have to play around CaptainTwig. Where is he? Who's he focusing on? Whenever that person gets focused, they need to get out of dodge as quick as possible and get replaced by somebody else who will frontline in their stead. They need to support whoever gets hit by that ultimate from CaptainTwig.
But no numbers being a part of the fight for me was a big deal. That's the first team fight, first fight where they got something out of it.
Yes.
And I think it's a big part because no numbers able to help set up on EmilZy. So when these solo laners rotate in, it looks like things are looking a bit better for Elevate as Obey go in for the steal in the ray.
I love the idea of the steal there from Obey. Grouped up in numbers. Remember how we saw
Yep.
it earlier on where they relinquished it? They had the advantage. It works out very well.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a quick listen in here with Obey Alliance, courtesy of Sennheiser, to see how their comms are going.
Don't be that scared, guys. Don't be that scared.
Cherryo's on the side here. Cherryo's
How are we fighting?
Look
at
Cherryo.
Go for Cherryo.
I'm gonna pick
Jumping, go.
Hold it. Root. He's dead.
Nice shot.
Nice, I've got ult.
I can look for
About to go.
I'm shoving wave coming goal, guys. Okay, I'm shoving wave going
They're
goal.
warded.
Shing is
The
here.
gold is warded, guys.
Yeah,
We have to fight this.
I'm coming over.
I'm gonna. Oh.
They're losing a wave in mid. I'm gonna go from behind. I can flick.
Okay, I'm resetting.
Do you want me to jump in?
Watch out,
Go.
yeah,
we could go. Okay. I need to get closer though.
I'm frenzying. Target? No, let's tell you. We're zoned, guys.
Oh,
no jump.
I'm on OE.
Numbers flank.
We got
numbers.
That's my Aegis.
Nice, go
back, go.
Yeah, I'm a heal.
Okay.
No numbers.
Well, Cherryo gets taken down early, and Obey Alliance run it from there. Tell me what happened in that fight, Graham.
So they burst him down. They use a lot of ultimates for that engage, though, to pick up Cherryo. And I'm surprised we didn't see Elevate look to aggress. Instead, they kept running the entire time. Obey, though, still on this Gold Fury. He's getting low.
And Dardez is rotating around the back, but there's no chance for him to steal it away. Not with the confirm of PrettyPriMe. Obey Alliance not just taking the kills, but they take the objective, now sitting up near 5,000 gold.
So the problem was in that team fight is once Cherryo gets picked off, Elevate want to play defensive, but they don't want to relinquish control of the Gold Fury completely for Obey to get it. Difference is that in that power play, even though Elevate had a man down, they had all their ultimates available. They could have still caused a lot of problems here for Obey around that Gold Fury, look to engage. Instead, what they end up doing is using their ultimates, using their relics defensively, trying to not get engaged on anymore, when they know Obey have used 4 ultimates in that fight. The only one that was available was Xalia's.
But they're not down as much in an ult advantage as they normally will be up against 2 stance switchers,
Very
right?
true,
That's true
very
with Jermain
true.
and Cherryo.
But then you
So,
think
yeah.
about what the other ultimates they have
They're
available.
big.
Dardez is great on zoning. DeathPanter's great on zoning too. And then no numbers can actually keep them trapped in that zone that we were just talking about from the other 2.
And that's what we saw. That's how that fight started off. Xaliea isolated Cherryo very well with those walls, and then they just blew him up. Now Obey Alliance are free to start exerting some pressure. Ataraxia has this tower down to the point where, yep, one more in hand is enough to do it, and Jermain has had a rough go of this game so far, just from the pressure from EmilZy and Ataraxia.
4 levels down in that lane is Jermain
Wow.
right now on this ult. We talked about the buffs for ult. I mean, you know, people are saying maybe he doesn't need buffing. I mean, obviously this game, Elevate thought it was going to be strong enough for this, but at the moment, it's not working out so well. Superior wave clear is what gave them the advantage, but it's also superior play that is keeping Obey in the lead.
We're over here on the right-hand side where the speed buff for Elevate's up, Portal Demon's up. There's a lot to take on this side of the map if a fight happens as Obey start to pull the Portal Demon. Dardez, DeathPanter, no numbers. Looks like they're all here to try and contest.
And now basically Obey have wrapped their hand around the throat of Elevate, and they're trying to strangle as hard as they can and put the pressure on even more. They're going to get a bigger lead out of this.
Good
They're
wall.
trying to force the fight.
They do lock in Cherryo. Tight go. Drums come out from PrettyPriMe, as well as the ultimate from CaptainTwig. See you later, Cherryo. Now they're going to go ahead and push in on no numbers. Whirlwind to Raijin steal. Doesn't get anyone thanks to the beads from Ataraxia. Blink in from Xaliea to lock him down. That's enough for kill number 2.
Notice how Xaliea didn't go and attack on to no numbers there. He waited patiently to see if he's going to try and get away. And the moment he does, blinks after, picks him up and goes, okay, Ataraxia won't be able to get this kill, but I can secure it too. This is what happens against a Nemesis. That's what I was expecting. Cherryo comes in, Cherryo disappears. You know, he can't even get to skip the walls from Xaliea too. Causes so many problems.
Now the Portal Demon is in the sights of Obey Alliance. Also having a hard time escaping was that demon, and now they'll have their own portal back in if they want to try and start this Fire Giant. Sure, it's 17 minutes in, but Obey have a lot of control right now. If they want to force it, they certainly could.
And now Elevate definitely on the back foot. Now, even though they are behind, I'm going to stay like 6k gold, but I don't think Obey are going to let the pressure up at all. The throat is really being stepped on here. Like, there's no pressure that Obey are going to relinquish at all. They're just like, let's kill them all. And Jermain is dead.
Jermain jumping back over the wall, but it's just back into more danger. Actually able to walk away for the moment after a good stun from Cherryo.
No,
keeps
EmilZy say
multiple
no.
members busy, but instead he gets stuck down. Aegis enough to keep him alive for the
Sprints.
moment and running in.
Catch the Jermain is the name of the game, but Prime Comp
There we
finally
go.
will at the end. All the players in the land were actually just screaming and cheering that he actually finally went down. Cherryo gets ulted again. Ooh, EmilZy.
Looking for the pull, but not able to find it. Jermain, though, does waste a lot of time. Enough time for PrettyPriMe to have the taiko drums ready to go one more time, pulling in the tanky no numbers. CaptainTwig, though, is the one in the front looking for slows as Cherryo rotates in the back, and he gets walled off again.
And what's Cherryo going to do? Die! Now no numbers, though. Might be able to pick up Ataraxia with the help of DeathPanter. It's not going to turn enough around here because Obey's still in a solid position.
Obey are still going to be okay. Ataraxia is a lot of their damage, though, so especially against structures, they might end up wanting to back off of it, but they know they're still out in front, even in a 4v4. Pull in from EmilZy Raw this time. No numbers, able to get out without too much damage.
Yeah, it's worked out so well for Obey this game. I think the biggest concern for me from looking at this is the amount of pressure Obey put on the dual lane in the early game. Was a straight 2-2. Just that, and then meanwhile, Twig, all he had to do was farm. As a Nemesis now, he's level 16. When he knows he gets to these team fights, all he's going to do is hit Cherryo, and Cherryo is non-existent in this game. That's all it's been.
Yeah, he cannot have the impact that he's looking for. He's been the focal point of Obey Alliance in the team fights. If the dual lane was where they had pressure earlier, well then since then it's been on this jungler. And every time he comes in, Xaliea walling him off, as you said, CaptainTwig ready to follow up, and they delete him. And then without all that control that he provides, there's no way for them to win those team fights.
It's also, Cherryo should know he is prime target for this team to look to ult from CaptainTwig. Reason being, if you try and ult Fafnir, he's just going to ult in response and then jump away. I'm like, okay, cool, you wasted an ultimate, I'm fine. You do it to someone like No Numbers, he does have a lot of mobility to get away from the danger zone afterwards. So, hard chase potential character. Cherryo, though, what's he going to do? Turn into a bear, then turn into a human, then turn into a bear? Like, that's all he can do.
Well, it's a druid form, right?
I mean, he's still a human.
I guess that's true.
Druid's still a human.
Either way, Artio was the first pick for Elevate, if I recall correctly. So it was something that they definitely prioritized in the picks and bans either way. And so not being able to get enough out of it's really going to hurt them because Obey Alliance, on the other hand, are working their comp to their full potential. Gold Fury's back up on the map. That's why we see Obey over here establishing strong positioning and getting ready to force the objective.
And all they're looking to do is find a pick before the fight. They will take it on. They'll start this Gold Fury. If there's no response, they'll take it. But if there is a response, you'll see them drop and go for an engage again straight away. Keep an eye on the ones with blinks. Sylvanus and Ataraxia Xaliea.
EmilZy goes in first, but Xaliea immediately follows up. Sunbreaker in response is enough to bring Xaliea very low. He's actually got to root it in place, whirlwinding him around in the Suns, and Jermain is able to clean that one up. Continuing to push, though, even down 4v5 as CaptainTwig. Dardez is very low, has to hang out in the back.
Yeah, two of the tanks low, though. EmilZy could get rooted in place by Cherryo there. The follow-up damage not really on point. The zoning ult from Ataraxia really came through. Would have been a killing ult, but everybody was well aware.
Yeah, not quite able to land it with that dark portal, so everyone's okay. Blinking in one more time is Cherryo, forcing PrettyPriMe to beads and jump away. Now it's Elevate who are the ones that are aggressing.
Looking to aggress, but they don't really have the prime targets to go, and they end up hitting EmilZy, and EmilZy's not going to be too upset. He's got the wisps. Elevate still trying to force this Gold Fury.
And PrettyPriMe already used the taiko drum, so the best way to steal him isn't going to be available. Now it's Ataraxia who's in trouble, has to use the Aegis, gets away. Cherryo controlling the team fights. That's the big difference, is Cherryo's still here.
Yes, Cherryo is still in this fight. That's because Xaliea died, and without Xaliea, they don't have that combo to bring him down. Now the pressure is on, but they're getting very low here, Elevate. Remember, EmilZy has those wisps. They've got a bit more sustain, especially with Cherryo being a little bit behind in terms of levels compared to other members of his team.
I think what we just saw was Elevate bumping into the lead they're facing. They were ahead in the team fight, but still couldn't take it handily because they're down about 5,000, 6,000 gold.
And the gold eventually won't matter so much if they don't fall too far behind, because they've got this double Hunter, triple Guardian comp. With the steroids that Fafnir is going to bring to this team for those two Hunters specifically, it's going to cause problems for Obey, but Obey is still in control.
Ultimate comes out on the no numbers, who's looking low. Up into the air one more time goes PrettyPriMe, controlling the team fight. Xaliea is back this time, and Cherryo's gone this time.
And now Panther versus Ataraxia, but Ataraxia has no relics and went a little bit too deep on his own. That's going to force Obey to have some problems, because I don't think they've got the damage to contest Elevate at this Gold Fury now, so they're going to have to reset.
They'll back off here because, yes, Obey's without their damage dealer, but Elevate's without their best control in Cherryo. So both teams kind of back off. And as you said, that gold lead falls off eventually. So a slower pace or stalling it kind of favors Elevate.
Precisely, especially when Hunter builds are on the lower end in terms of cost overall.
Sure.
It does mean that they will hit their maximum stride a little bit earlier in the game than you would see from maybe a mage in the mid lane, you know? So that's going to come into play for Panther and Jermain too. The biggest thing is target selection from the Hunters too. They need to double up their damage on whoever they're focusing on, and the Guardians need to realize that from Elevate. The 3 tank front line, they need to pick a target that's going to be good for them to burst down those Hunters in the backside. Great peel from No Numbers in that whole engagement, by the way. I love the way he used his ultimate, just to zone away Obey a little bit more, make sure that he couldn't get to the back line. That's where the struggles have been before.
Either way now, the teams are sort of backing up for just the moment. Obey Alliance still out in control of this game. They're still the ones in the lead, but they're Elevate are keeping it at that level where it's still manageable. It's not as if it's something where they cannot fight into it, and that's what we've seen, but I'm thinking that Cherryo has to make sure he lives through that initial focusing, that initial burst.
I actually think the next objective, probably the Gold Fury, could end up being the Portal Demon, though, will be the deciding factor of this game, more so than not. If Elevate actually get the next Gold Fury or Portal Demon, I think we're almost at, it's going to be a longer extended game where Elevate can continue to fight. If Obey get it, though, game 1 could be over and in their favor.
Yeah, this is that they're teetering on that edge to the point where Elevate won't be able to fight into it anymore. And Obey, it feels like, are recognizing it as they move back over towards the Gold Fury. Though now getting to the point where Jermain can hang with Ataraxia for the moment. CaptainTwig in danger, getting stunned, already had to use his relics to avoid getting controlled.
And that's what you need from Cherryo there. Turn, look for the root, look to stay at range. Don't engage straight away as this Guardian. Even though you know you're the big frontliner, you do that against Twig. You've seen it happen how many times so far? 5 of this game. We can't have that happen anymore. They've got to play the patience a little bit better, make Obey come onto them a little bit more, because that's when they've gone wrong here, Obey. Overextending a little bit, realizing they have this lead.
Now looking to start this Gold Fury one more time. And like you said, Obey are playing this patient. They want to get a little bit too much of a commitment from Cherryo in particular so they can lock him down. We've seen it like 4 times now. The walls coming out, the tectonic shift from Xaliea, and then following it up.
Panther's doing great work with that ricochet. Just hit a triple, double bounce, I should say. It was the second and third. Well, this is just a little bit of a poking scenario here at the moment. No one's going to commit fully. Keep an eye on the blinks from EmilZy and Xaliea, though, once again. There's a couple of blinks on Elevate, too, and there's one!
Cherryo gets a 4-man stun in the back line, but the wall comes out immediately in response. He's still alive, though, for the moment. I think Shells came out to keep him going. Ataraxia cleans up with the Dark Portal, though. No Numbers in the front line, but not able to clean anything up. Ricochet went through, too, but not enough.
Tell you what, if that pull hit from EmilZy, this fight would have handily gone to Obey. Showers to Ataraxia over the wall with that ultimate. He was poked out, but still managed to get the ultimate off to secure the kill on Cherryo. If he would have lived, would have been in trouble. Twig, though, he's out of position.
Twig was way up there all alone. Xaliea blinks in to try and help out, but it's too little too late. Jermain gets that one. Now going into the back line of DeathPanter and Dardez. They get a double kill between the two of them. Xaliea has to retreat.
Even when Cherryo died there, that worked out so well for Elevate. Obey wanted to continue aggressing. Twig, when I say he was out of position, there was a ward that had spotted him out in the jungle that Elevate had there that gave the game away, so they got into an awkward spot. Now EmilZy's going to die too. He's just trying to buy time, but the Gold Fury's still going to go down.
Yeah, EmilZy, that's a 4-man wipe that came out in favor of Elevate there. A huge team fight for them. Now they're the ones taking this Gold Fury and evening out that gold deficit that they were facing into. And as you said, now we're probably going to be moving into a longer game. Now these team fights are going to be a little bit more even. Obey can't just go around the map doing whatever they want.
Well, it's also getting to the point now that there's no reason to focus Cherryo as much with the ultimates.
Sure.
Yes, he's going to be very useful for this team, but when Cherryo's even not available now, you're so worried about Jermain and DeathPanter. Remember, Jermain got focused all game. He's now only a level behind Ataraxia. Just give showers to that young Frenchman for doing all that work to get back into it. And Panther in the mid lane having a fantastic time on this Hou-Yi. The Hunters are the danger factor now. The Hunters have to be taken out.
Now only down about 1,000 gold or so is Elevate when the deficit was close to 6,000 at one point. So that team fight, a huge swing for them, not just in terms of the kills they pick up in the Gold Fury, but just everything they could farm off the map. And now they're going to be able to slow things down, try and have a neutral fight with Obey over these objectives. And as you said, if I'm in a neutral fight, I probably want 2 Hunters.
Yeah, for sure, especially with a Fafnir in backup tower as well. Very, very useful for them. I don't think Obey have lost this game yet.
No.
But they have even things up by slightly over aggression. Just ever so slight here and there. They've felt themselves a little bit too much and made a couple of mistakes which Elevate have absolutely capitalized on. No messing around from them whatsoever. They're actually looking to try and pressure the tier 1 tower on the right-hand side right now. I believe, is that Jermain over there? No, Jermain's over there. It's 2 members. I think it's 2 Guardians. I thought it was one of the Hunters were on the right-hand side, but Cherryo, No Numbers, Dardez, the trio of the front line, getting some support from DeathPanter, who He's still practicing his pull shots.
Yeah, DeathPanter knows where he can line up those ricochets. He is not just pulling this hui out for the fun of it. I think this is something he's clearly very comfortable with, and I like what we've seen from him so far. Sitting 3-1 and 3, done a good job in that mid lane. Another good bounce.
Now, generally at this point of the game, what will probably happen is Obey might slow down their tempo a little bit because they're realizing they're making mistakes. But if they don't, I don't want them to, and they're not going to.
The Rathateer does knock up Cherryo, and he gets the pull in. He's still okay, but he's actually just sitting in the damage. PrettyPriMe is enough to finish him off. DeathPanter dropped the Suns, but it was not enough.
Just want to notice the ultimate out from Ataraxia there to hit DeathPanter and Dardez and not Cherryo was actually more impactful for Obey because it meant that they couldn't get involved with their abilities to support Cherryo and get him out of that scenario. Now it means that Obey are on the march once more.
Tier 1 tower in mid has fallen, and it kind of looks like they want to try and force this Tier 2. Why not? Without Cherryo, Elevate's going to be missing a lot. Ataraxia takes a good bit of poke. Ricochet a little off the mark. No numbers, going for that whirlwind and Raijin steal. He's got 2. Back into the Draconic Corruption coming out from Dardez.
The problem is there's no real follow-up for them. Without a mage to burst down on EmilZy, EmilZy can just walk back out of tower range once more. DeathPanter already used his ult around the Tier 1 tower. Jermain doesn't have an ultimate. They don't have the follow-up damage for that whirlwind and Raijin steal.
And now we get to see the wisps coming out from EmilZy on this Sylvanus, healing them back up. The sustain that you get along with the control is coming up so big for them. And that's what Sylvanus, it feels like he does like 5 things really well. The knock-up is really good setup. The wisps are good sustain. The pull is good initiation. Like, what does he not do?
Well, the big thing with Sylvanus is mobility is the low.
That's true.
That's the worst thing is his mobility is a little bit low. Hello, Elevate. This could be an interesting attempt. They might be just looking for a pick more than anything else. Twig is in trouble.
Twig's in trouble, and we've got Elevate here with the Sennheiser listening.
He's getting rooted, he's getting rooted, he's getting rooted. Careful, help Cherry, help Cherry. Nem. I have a stun. I'm fine. Nem. He's 1 HP, dude. I'm fine, I'm so fine. Cherry's dead. I can't.
Nem is 1 HP.
I might be fine.
Good shot.
I'm alive. They use Raijin ult, Cabra ult. I'm not sure if we're low. We need to reset.
Let me live steal a bit, guys.
Yeah.
So what we saw in that fight there, Finch, the biggest thing is Cherryo was not near Twig. Twig was being focused on by the entire team. Without Nemesis, and they're having a hard time against Cherryo.
Yeah.
Cherryo can survive a long time. You heard him there like, I think I'm okay. I'm about to make it out of this. Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, by the way, they used pretty much everything to try and kill me, and you killed Twig. Keep Nemesis away from Cherryo. Elevate will be okay.
And that's what happened for him in that team fight. The problem is they didn't quite win it handily enough to get anything off the back of it. So, yes, they slowed down Obey, but again, we're still sitting a bit even for it. Obey actually getting closer back to the 2,000 gold lead or so. But Elevate, as we saw, more than capable of still fighting into it.
But both team comps as the game goes on are very solid, like into the later stages of the game. They both had advantages and disadvantages. It really is just a tactical battle now about positioning on the map, specifically between the two junglers. You want Twig to stay alive as long as possible and hold that ultimate for the right moment. And Obey need to play around that. Elevate, though, they recognize that now. They have, dealt with the concern they had coming out with Cherryo being focused so much, and now the game's starting to tilt in the other direction.
I'm worried it might be in Obey's favor, though. From Elevate, the best initiation we've seen for them is either none, just countering, or Cherryo blinking in. But Obey have EmilZy and Xaliea, both who have been really strong initiators, so can kind of come from multiple spots. If Obey can use that to their advantage over just the kind of one from Elevate, they might be able to take it, but Twig's in trouble.
Well, he was for a second, but Ataraxia's silence will cause problems for Cherryo. Now the wrap onto Cherryo is there once more. Cherryo needs some support and gets it from no numbers around the back. Cherryo on the run and will live, and Xaliea is getting very low.
Xaliea is very low, but the Wrath, the Terra knocks up 2. Up into the Tycho drums goes PrettyPriMe, controlling Dardez for the moment, but they're very tanky or Elevate, not able to get any kills. Going in aggressively, actually, is DeathPanter. That's enough to push back Obey for the moment.
Great blink from Cherryo, and the Hunters to shred through CaptainTwig. That was a big fight for Elevate because notice where the damage from Obey came there. It was onto the tanks, and the tanks, that's their job. Take that damage. The Hunters go unchecked, and now they start to run rampage.
Dardez is doing a great job zoning out PrettyPriMe, and Xaliea actually getting the ricochet stun as DeathPanter not quite able to clean up Cabrakan, but with the Gold Fury in tow, this mid-tier 1 tower is gonna fall. Elevate from behind, 6k gold, Graham, are looking to even things up.
Should be a Portal Demon attempt here, not a Fire Giant. I think if they go for Fire, it's a little bit too much, but Portal Demon is definitely worth a fight. They can take on PrettyPriMe, Ataraxia, and EmilZy here. There's only 5 members of Elevate, and 2 of them have Stones of Gaia. Not saying it's a big item, it is in terms of sustain, however, and that's what you need on your tanks. Long engagements like this, wisps for EmilZy means that as a frontline tank, you need to stay in these fights as long as possible. Those Stone of Guys will help them do that.
And we did a lot of player interviews, Graham. Do you remember what Cherryo said in his? He said about this set, if we can win game 1, I think we can take the set. They felt really strongly that this one was really going to be important for the rest of for how the rest of the set was going to go. And Elevate, if they win it, I'm not saying they're there yet, but this is the way to do it, to pump you up for the rest of the set.
Well, the adjustments out of Elevate this year have been fantastic. The reason being is Dardez and Jermain have played with their heart a lot of the time. The problem with that is when they get behind, their heads have always dropped. Cherryo and DeathPanter joining this squad has changed things, which means their heads don't drop ever. And that means that in situations like this, when they're behind, they could go on to win the game.
Going in on Cherryo again is the call, but the Sunbreaker is enough to bring too much damage onto EmilZy. Cherryo makes it out, but EmilZy does not. Jermain gets credit for that one. DeathPanter has to Aegis to avoid the damage. Now CaptainTwig is the call. He gets to lead it.
Cherryo just picked over the wall like, what up, boys? Now the chase is on no numbers. He's going to catch Ataraxia. Ataraxia going to try and box his way up, but it's a triple kill for Jermain. Remember, Jermain was behind, what, 0-2, 0-3 in lane?
Yeah.
3 to 4 levels down on Ataraxia, and now all is online.
But Prime came up big for them, getting 2 kills. That kept Elevate from winning this fight too much. He goes back in, just barely avoiding the lockdown from Dardez. But that's the reason we don't see them turning back immediately and trying to burn this objective. Prime didn't let them win this by too big of a margin.
Big key there is what you said. I mean, Jermain was going to take a bit of time to do this Fire Giant on his own with the support of Cherryo. Guardians, not the greatest at killing it, but there's no one really here from Obey to contest it. Bad news if they do this Fire Giant right now, which is what they're looking to do, means DeathPanter and No Numbers won't get that Fire Giant buff. You'd love DeathPanter to get it too. Obviously, securing the objective is big. I would have liked to have maybe set up for some more picks rather than secure this fire.
Jermain, though, was able to pull it. So they've got Fire Giant on 3 members. Xaliea and Prime just couldn't get into position after strong zoning coming out from the remaining members of Elevate. And now look at Elevate sitting on what feels like their first lead of the game, up 2,200 gold at 35 minutes. The gold's not what's important. It's the Fire Giant. It's clearing them. It's giving them that credence to go in and start taking towers off the map, cleaning their path towards the Titan.
And I think what Obey need to do now, though, now that they're on defense here, is in the next couple of engagements, when they're looking at these team fights, they need to adjust target focus. I mentioned it earlier on. Stop going for the tanks. Yeah, you know, you've got this Nemesis, but leave Twig in the back line. Let's send Xaliea in, right? Let's have Xaliea blink to the back, looking for Jermain or DeathPanter. Either one of them is going to be tricky, but they've both got beads. Burn some of those beads early on. Try and get some Aegis off them. Set Prime up to follow up with that Xaliea and leave Twig hanging around like a little spy hiding in the jungle waiting for the sneaky play. He's an assassin. The role of Nemesis is an assassin. Let's make him play like that now and wait for the end of the fights instead of trying to commit to a Guardian early to burst them down. They need to change playstyle here because otherwise these 2 damage dealers are going to cause too many problems.
It feels 100% like once the go in on Cherryo plan stopped working, that's when Elevate started winning these team fights. So now they're grouping up. It looks like Obey Alliance don't really want to give too much up. Probably not going to defend on this tier 1, but looks like they might want to fight on a tier 2 if Elevate keep pushing.
Tier 2 is a lot tankier, it's a lot healthier, just to be able to survive a couple more attacks than it used to. But Double Hunt is, again, with a Fafnir steroid, it's not going to last too long. They might even relinquish this unless the right opportunity presents itself.
CaptainTwig is around the side, but it's EmilZy who blinks in. Wrath of Terra on 2 members. Dardez getting control, but he's still a tanky dwarf, so he's going to be all right for the moment. PrettyPriMe just trying to clear these minions so they can't keep pushing.
They've just got to give up this tier 2. I don't think they can continue contest this too much more. Dardez taking up the tower for the time being. I love the split from Panther and Jermain on the back line, by the way. With carries in the back, when they clump, that's a big issue because when you clump, you can get hit by multiple abilities. Jermain, Panther, sitting opposite sides of the tower, either side of it going, you can only get one of us. You can't pick us both at the same time. That's really big.
Hammered Sun does come out on Ataraxia to start this team fight off. Cherryo's the one tanking, and he's the one that's locked in. Whirlwind of Rage still actually brings EmilZy back into the back line. Ataraxia actually gets good damage on a DeathPanter, but not quite enough to kill.
And now look at the run. CaptainTwig's going to give chase, but look at the block off. Jermain and Cherryo go, no, Twiggy, you're not getting a Panther that easy. Elevate are on the run. They have Fire Giant on 3 members. If they just relinquish the pressure, which is what they're doing, they don't give anything up here, which is very, very big.
And what we saw there was target focus. Cherryo, Dardez, and Jermain, very, very healthy still. But you know who's low? DeathPanter. That's just enough from Obey to force the end of the push from Elevate. That's all they really needed.
Exactly. Because Elevate know as well, Finch, is that if they lose their carry, if lose one of these 2 carries, they don't have that much damage in these fights. It's the carries that are doing the damage. The front line ate all those ults at the start of that fight. You know, and you're like, okay, yeah, we're still good. Now we're going to get a Gold Fury. It's a disappointing Gold Fury because they would have liked a couple more towers at this point. But they'll take it for now. The next Fire Giant, they've got about a minute left on this one.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, I think if DeathPanter had a Fire Giant buff and they would have waited on that fire, this could have been a bit of a better play for Elevate overall. I understand why they took it, though.
They wanted to go ahead and get that off the map, and I don't blame them either for taking it the way that they did. Now, though, they're going to have to try and win another fight around this Fire Giant pit, as very likely they really won't have time for a push with that Fire Giant buff with them. Only another 30 seconds or so on it, and it'll be responding in about a minute 30, and that's when we'll see another fight between these two teams. But will Obey make the same mistake? Will they let Twig get isolated away from Cherryo, or are they going to make him still the focus?
Well, I think the big key of that last little engagement, they probably will lose a Portal Demon here, but the big thing about the last engagement, Finch, is that they saw what happened when Panther nearly died. Everyone from Elevate ran.
Yeah.
So that should be a big sign for Obey of like, hey, let's just focus him. Like, focus him now. We know his Relic's on cooldown. He's got no beads for a few more seconds. Maybe around the next, the next engagement, we could look to pick him again, force out the Aegis and beads. If we can, great.
Tier 1 tower on right is going to fall. Once again, though, Obey looking to defend a Tier 2 tower. This time, not even with Fire Giant, is Elevate. So Obey certainly able to defend it. PrettyPriMe not here just yet, though. He's still rotating over from mid. So if Elevate hurry and push, they might be able to do it without having to worry about it.
Zone word from Cherryo and no numbers. Just keeping Xaliea in combat as well as EmilZy. Keep them in combat. They can't use those blinks looking for the backline. And notice the position once they get a Panther and Jermain. They're always staying as far back as they can. Dardez is a bit out of position. It will force an ult for ult trade. In goes Cherryo, though.
Again. 4-man stun again. Actually, 2-man Wrath of Terra prevents the immediate follow-up, but it's Xaliea who's taking on the damage. He has to back up on the Cabrakan. Cherryo now trying to run back towards CaptainTwig, but the shield's enough to get him out of that one. Once again, though, Graham, Elevate's siege doesn't look too strong.
Well, it didn't need to look strong. They got 4 ultimates out of Obey there.
Yeah.
Onto 3 tanks. And all 3 tanks are still healthy. Couple of ultimates still available for them if they need it. Well, no numbers is at least anyway. And now the Fire Giant spawning and Obey kind of ditched their load there, looking to try and force a fight, but it was on to the tanks yet again.
Yeah, really, it's only No Numbers and Xaliea who are going to be the big impact ults in this team fight. EmilZy's getting locked down. No Numbers up and down. EmilZy actually able to get out of it. Now he's okay. Dardez jumps in aggressively trying to finish it out, and that gives Xaliea the chance to wall him off.
Could have been a mistake with that Xaliea wall, but the bad news is Obey had no further follow-up. EmilZy out of the fight. Prime has to ditch away, but he can't get away. He will get back out just in time. Xalia's now low. This could be a Fire Giant attack because EmilZy and Prime and Xaliea have to return to base.
They're too low. There's no way for them to defend. Just let DeathPanter and Jermain do the objective, and you can have Cherryo, No Numbers, and Dardez all on zoning duty. Another Fire Giant going the way of Elevate, and they didn't even have to kill anyone.
Nope, they didn't. All they had to do was let the fight unfold. Obey committed. Obey used everything they could on their tanks, didn't find it, and then again, they fall back. Funny enough, Dardez jumping over the wall I thought was a misplay. Like him trying to go for that final kill on EmilZy. If he didn't do that, though, the rest of it wouldn't have unfolded. It's like a butterfly effect more than anything else. Dardez goes over the wall looking for a kill on EmilZy where you're like, that's a bit risky. I wouldn't really be going for that. That could put you in trouble. Ended up winning them the fight because they poked out 3 members and then can get the fire.
Well, you identified it right away, Graham. They didn't have their ultimates. So yes, jumping over the wall wasn't the best call, and Xaliea does get the perfect tectonic shift, but there was nothing for it. They isolated 2 members, and they really couldn't burn them down fast enough. They kind of just walked away afterwards. So now Elevate, after zoning out those 3, they do have the Fire Giant. Now they're looking for Tower Siege Part 2 coming in for this Tier 2 in mid.
I'm not so sure about going for Tier 2s just yet. I mean, they are technically free. It does weaken the Titan overall here. I think Phoenix's could have been a better option than maybe the left one, but might as well just chip them down anyway, because gold's not that important at 41 minutes.
Sure.
Everyone's pretty much level 20 full build. We've only got EmilZy, who's not level 20. Take into account, by the way, EmilZy had the first 2 kills of this game and is the last person to hit level 20 just because of how this game turned on its head.
That's right. It started off with EmilZy and Ataraxia going in over there in the duo lane, and since then, it's really felt like it's been the PrettyPriMe, CaptainTwig, and Xaliea show as far as the rest of it's gone. But now looking to push on this Phoenix on the right side is Dardez going in.
Keep an eye on Jermain and DeathPanter. They've got to stay split as much as possible. Xaliea getting focused, and EmilZy will catch them both. Cherryo still tanking, no Prime with the drums of war, and immediately Elevate go, no, we don't want to deal with those. We'll back away, thank you, and now we'll come again.
Now they're coming back in without having to worry about Wrath of Terra or the Tycho drums. Already have that Phoenix getting chunked very low. Xaliea locked down for the moment, looking to isolate Cherryo one more time, but he just walks out.
No Numbers dead.
Still, but No Numbers actually gets blown up.
And now the run is on yet again for Obey to give chase. Elevate just have to run away once more, realizing one of their front Sylvanus is dead. Jermain
Going back
getting
in is
focused.
Cherryo.
Cherryo goes in. Dardez commits as well, but is it enough?
It might be enough. Now it looks like Elevator making the call to push back one more time. Twig is the one that's getting all the damage, but he's got the shield. It's enough to slow him down. Even without no numbers, Elevate went back in.
They did go back in because they're looking to try and catch Obey by surprise, and it did catch them by surprise. They just didn't have the follow-up. DeathPanter and Jermain just weren't in the right position to look to turn that engagement anymore. Obey gonna hold here for now. I mean, Prime and Ataraxia, they've been in some games where they've held from deficits before. They're at one now. Big key was taking out no numbers. No numbers dying as quick as he did meant different scenario straight away.
Still sticking around, though, are Elevate. Xaliea and EmilZy and Ataraxia are all here, continuing to be on fire with those ricochets, though, is DeathPanter. He's looking real good with them on that Hu-Yi. That's something I wanted to been talking about, man. Elevate are looking world-class here up against Obey.
They're looking fantastic. They've come on a long way this season, and it's really starting to shine through here. Can we just note the player damage on the left-hand side, by the way? 56,000, just under 57,000 for PrettyPriMe, and yet they're losing this game. You know why? Because damage doesn't mean everything.
No, they're putting it into tanks.
You're putting it into tanks, which means nothing. So at the end of the game, when you sit there and you go, hey guys, like, why did we lose that game? I did all the player damage. Well, you were probably focusing tanks, weren't you? That's probably why we still lost.
And that's what's happening here in this fight. Elevate are just so tanky. There's no way to get to DeathPanter and Jermain to lock them down for Obey that they haven't been able to win a team fight handily. They need CaptainTwig to get that ultimate off on someone and lock them down, but they just have not had the chance yet. But Graham, I got to ask you this question here. Elevate, I mean, they've got to be so committed to this right now. 44 minutes into the game, top card in EU, a chance to win game one. They really need to win this.
We are at a stage, though, I think if Elevate end up throwing this, Obey can just walk down and win. Because the game's so long. And if that happens, I think Elevate will just fall to a 3-0 loss to Obey, because that will be very tilting after how this game went. They battled their way through the early game, got absolutely wrecked. Then in mid-game, starting to get the foot back in the game, put their gas pedal down, cause so many problems for Obey, and then take control of it. If they were to lose this game at this stage by a silly mistake that they could potentially make, that would probably end all their lives and just their hopes of how this set will play out. But they're still in control. They are still in control.
Yeah, what I'm looking at, though, is the threshold here for them. For Elevate, I feel like if either DeathPanter or Jermain are out of position for a moment, Elevate lose the team fight. But for Obey Alliance, if they lose someone, we've seen them still be able to win. So I feel like the margin for error for Elevate's a lot higher.
Well, this little collapse here is very key. This little corridor that you can see going to be a big engagement area. Both teams are going to want to funnel each other through it. That's why EmilZy's looking to pull through the wall, force Elevate to group up and get the big AoE ultimates. And Elevate looking for the same sort of thing. Catch him in the corridors.
Obey are backing up, though. They don't want to get controlled by this 3 Guardian comp that Elevate have. Good ricochet once again from DeathPanter. He's just showing off at this point.
He's hacking. I swear, someone check his Bowser keyboard. He's hit so many ricochets this game of like triple bounces on not just one, but like 2 targets every single time. Could be a Hunter player in the future, DeathPanter, we'll see.
He certainly could be, as long as he can get Hu-Yi. Fire Giant is being aggressed on. That's why we see Xaliea finally pushing the issue. EmilZy knocks up no numbers, but they really don't get too much out of it, except they slow down the aggression on the objective.
They do, but blink an ultimate down from a Sylvanus. Very unfortunate for Obey. Keeping him in combat means they can't blink round, and as soon as one commits, the rest are being isolated where they can.
The tectonic shift does come out from Xaliea, but no one gets locked down. Actually, Cherryo has gone very far forward by himself, but he's tanky enough to survive all the aggression.
We're not mentioning the shells yet, but these double shells that Elevate have been running have allowed their Guardians to survive just a little bit longer through the burst that Obey can put out. Prime's putting up a ton of damage, but they can't bring down the Guardians, and that's been the issue the whole game.
What we're seeing right now is the tankiness versus the sustain that EmilZy provides. It's almost like 2 forms of sustain, wherein they can both take a lot of damage and still keep team fighting. It was enough for Elevate to give up the call on that Fire Giant for now. So Obey Alliance are doing a good job stalling while Elevate are in control. But, I mean, 46 minutes in, is anyone really in the lead still?
I actually feel it's almost time to see CaptainTwig go on a bit of an adventure this game. And by adventure, I mean start doing a bit of split pushing.
Perhaps,
turn up to the fights a little bit later with the assassin that I was mentioning, but try and split Elevate apart. You can't fight them 5v5. It's been proven that when you try and fight them 5v5 in this composition, they can't seem to get any kills.
Fire Giant's given up one more time. Wrath of Terror gives him CC immunity so he does not get pulled. Walled in one more time, but they're shredding him right away with these AD carries, so no one's getting locked in.
Yep, and so it's just a fallback yet again from Elevate. Notice they've still got a couple of situations there for them to be in control of. Some relics have been used on both sides, though. Keep an eye on both the Hunters, Ataraxia and Jermain, both without beads now.
Finally, though, we're seeing Obey Alliance push in. So this whole fight, they've been beyond that choke point that you've been talking about. Now they're kind of moving into the Fire Giant pit,
they got him.
and that was enough for them to come in and get the flip on the Ataraxia and lock him down. No immediate follow-up. Now the Aegis, PrettyPriMe trying to control the teamfight with the Taiko drums. He does for the moment. Ataraxia dropped the Dark Portal on top of himself. Cherryo getting locked in. Cherryo falling! That's going to be big for this teamfight, Graham.
Obey could be in control now. Dardez has to leap away. Jermain low on mana. That's why they've given him the blue buff too. Here's the key for that fight. Ataraxia presented himself as a target. They didn't burst him enough. The length of time Ataraxia held his Aegis was so important for that fight.
Yeah.
Because it allowed time for Elevate to funnel in looking for the kill. Like, yes, give me that knee. I want to kill him. And then Prime gets a beautiful ult across the whole team that zones them all back away.
Yes.
Gets Ataraxia out because of the Aegis straight afterwards and sets up the first kill for Cherryo to fall. Obey, with a one-man power play, they could go for the Fire Giant here.
They absolutely could go for this Fire Giant and try and force in Elevate. That seems to be the call. Let Ataraxia pull it while Xaliea is on zoning duty, and that's the call. No numbers coming around the right. Dardez down here between EmilZy, PrettyPriMe, and Xaliea. Another sick ricochet from DeathPanter. Please stop.
It's not about the tanks they really need to kill. All the ultimate from EmilZy just off the mark, catching no numbers there. They really should be just looking to take out the carries. The Guardians aren't going to do enough in terms of the team fight. It's the carries that come in. This DeathPanter, this Jermain, if those two get into this fight, it causes them the biggest problem.
And that was enough for Obey Alliance to
goodness.
finally take away that Fire Giant. In fact, Portal Demons even back up. That's how long that engagement was. And now it's turned. Now Obey are the ones that can start pushing down into this end of the map. There's still 3 tier 2 towers up, all 3 Phoenixes, so they got a lot of work to do, Graham, but they can start pushing.
But they've not got too much work to do because when you look at Elevate's composition on defense now, bit of a different story.
Sure.
The wave clear isn't the strongest in the world. They're very melee focused in terms of wave clear unless you use DeathPanter or Jermain. And if they take a step up too close to try and clear this wave out before Obey bring the minions in, when the minions come in, they're going to end up getting bursted down earlier. The Hunters are going to present themselves as prime targets a little bit on defense here. It's going to be tricky for Elevate to defend against this Fire Giant, but if they can take a fight before they get to the towers, keep them off the tower line and keep the engages at a 5-on-5, it'll work out well for them.
And we talked about earlier how the players here on Elevate are emotional, but anybody going through a 50-minute slugfest like this, it's going to weigh on you if you end up dropping it, especially when you were up for as long as Elevate were just now. Now, Obey certainly haven't won just yet. We've seen plenty of base defenses so far, but I have to agree, the siege for Obey Alliance does seem a little stronger.
We won't see these comps run back, by the way. Sure. Neither team will allow this to happen again because neither team will feel comfortable about how this game went. Whoever wins, they're still not going to run this back.
No one's going to be happy when it's over.
It's been a seesaw battle the entire time. Like, there's no way they're like, listen, we're not giving them a triple Guardian lineup like that again with 2 Hunters. And then Obey and Elevate will be like, listen, make sure we ban away the Nemesis next time because that was just too much to deal with in the early game. We could have run away with that if we didn't have to deal with the Nemesis.
Now Obey Alliance coming over to this left hand to try and push. Looks like this time, though, Elevate do want to defend on that tier 2. It looks like they kind of gave the one in middle up, but they feel like they can fight here, or at least don't want to give it up for free. Looking for ricochets again, or DeathPanter, who's been on fire with them. But as you said, those initiations are going to be the big factor.
And look how Elevate have to back away. Why? They can't clear the minions safely. You can't have DeathPanter and Jermain walk forward. It's so tricky. On Phoenix defense, I feel it's going to be a blink for blink situation. Keep an eye on Elevate blinking the exact same time they see an Obey member blink. EmilZy's been the one to go in every time. Wouldn't be surprised to see him be the one to do it again.
EmilZy's been doing a good job with it. What's also been really strong this game has been the counter initiations. How well can you respond when someone blinks in, when Cherryo blinks in looking for the 3-man stun, when EmilZy goes in looking for the Wrath of Terra? Can you lock them down afterwards?
And that's the key. It's not just a lockdown, but it's like, have you got the burst to kill them?
Sure.
On top of that, you've got to then burst them after you get the lockdown on them to them too, which causes a problem. Waiting for minions more often than not. That's why we see Twig in mid now. I was hoping for this a little bit. Trying to isolate them. Turn them into a 4v4 maybe. That becomes a 4v5. Don't let them start with all 5 members. That's why Twig is pushing mid.
And that's what he's doing. Pulling no numbers away from the fight. This way we can pull up. The difference is, as Xaliea actually takes a really good bit of poke. Sunbreaker dropped in, and the blink goes in from Cherryo. Does stun on 3 members, but no immediate follow-up, and CaptainTwig takes down no numbers in mid. That's huge.
Split them apart and watch them fall like dominoes. That'll be the game plan.
No.
Xaliea took a lot of poke there overall, but he's back to sustain back up with the Wisps and the Fire Giant. Jermain forced to beads and leap away after EmilZy goes in. Phoenix on the left is going to fall down. Obey now looking towards mid.
Yeah, and look at this. There's 4 coming around. Dardez and Cherryo are a little bit too far forward. CaptainTwig is also looping around the back end, but the focus from Obey is this Phoenix. That's the right call. Taiko drums coming out from PrettyPriMe to try and control Dardez, who goes into Draconic Corruption, immediately gets pulled in, actually out of the Dark Portal, but it's enough for Dardez to get away.
Funny enough, if he would have let the Dark Portal connect there, then the pull comes after. Definitely a dead dragon. but it's still fine. The ultimate out of Prime there was more zoning than anything. If he gets kills, great. Realistically, he just wants to make sure they're awake so they can get the second Phoenix. Obey have broken the back of this game off these engagements. It's been crazy. This has been a great game one. The best news is, Finch, we've got 5 games of this potentially, and I think each one could go the distance.
That's nuts to think about here as Xaliea goes in on Jermain, locked him down. Cripple Field's enough to slow down the aggression just for the moment. Going in again is Dardez aggressively. Cherryo in the backline creating problems for Ataraxia and PrettyPriMe. Following up his DeathPanter. That's actually 2 quick kills. Jermain and DeathPanter looking real good.
Ataraxia's got to run a Mills. He's going to get picked up on the backside. Cherryo's going to give chase onto Prime as well. Does he get the damage over the wall? Ataraxia turns it around, but Jermain takes down Ataraxia too. It's only Prime left. Respawn time is over a minute. They need to push an end.
They can end this.
What's Prime got? Prime's ultimate is up in, what, 30 seconds or less? Prime could defend. They're going to have to backdoor this. Jermain's going to want to keep chasing Prime. Oh, he uses ult defensively. Oh.
No! That would have been so big for them in that last team fight. Now with Dardez and Jermain here, Dardez can tank it. Jermain can start shredding the tower, and DeathPanter's right here with them too. That's more than enough to do damage to these structures here. Elevate after letting Obey come back in, letting Obey get the Fire Giant. Elevate, win the team fight at the right side. Phoenix, now Elevate, come in for the win.
If Prime had his ultimate here, this could be a different story. He's looking to focus Panther, but Panther's focusing him.
PrettyPriMe is gone! PrettyPriMe is gone! Elevate, come in to take game 1! Yes, it's a best of 5, but we're here to win! See you later, Obey! You're gonna have to try again!
The defense came out when it was needed. 2 Phoenixes down, 1 of your members in base dead. You're really far behind, and you're like, oh my goodness, we just swung it again with 1 fight. Obey hung around too much, bit off more than they could chew, and Elevate snatch away game 1 from jaws of defeat. Crazy.
Now, I think that Obey losing that game 1 is not as damaging as Elevate if they had lost that game 1. I think it's much more likely Obey can regroup and still do well in this set.
And the main reason for that is because Obey have the experience of being in these sets before.
Yeah.
They've lost games on this stage and worse situations than this. But for Elevate, that's a huge boon.
Yes, it is.
You lose the early game as bad as you did. You get control of the game and you dominate the game for the middle to late game period. You make a mistake. You lose the Fire Giant, you nearly lose the game, and then right at the end, swings round. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's right. They were able to do a really good job defending there against it. And you're right, that defense on the right side, once they got just a couple picks, they were able to just keep right on trucking down that right lane and take that mid Phoenix. And PrettyPriMe, do you think he should have held the ultimate?
I think he was worried. So realistically, we can see it from the big screen, right? We get to see the map from over the top, the spectator mode. We know what's going on. We can see that no one's in range to kill them. The problem is, though, is that PrettyPriMe uses ultimate defensively, expecting to either A, try and kill someone who is getting aggressive and stay alive. Him doing that actually ended up meaning that they couldn't defend the Phoenix at the end, the Titan at the end.
Well, Graham, I think you and I can sit here and talk about that game literally all day, but let's go ahead and let the desk break it down. Taco, tell us what happened.
Well, for sure, Finch, we got a little bit of a glimpse of what happened in that match. And totally, Jeff, I mean, we watched that the entire way through. Everybody was kind of just holding their breath after that start. What do you think happened?
It was just such a nail-biting performance here. It was easily the best game I've seen Elevate play from the very beginning, even throughout their online performance. This triple Guardian double hunter composition really worked out well for them.
They were doing great. They had a rough time in the early game, right? Because Cherryo kept getting focused, and they were walling him in. They were using the Cabrakan stuff. They were comboing really well, and then Cherryo just hit a point where he lived. And they dumped everything into him, and they kept up, and he kept living over and over.
He got that power spike. He got his items online, the levels as well. It was just too many ultimates from Obey Alliance being thrown at him repeatedly over and over again. That one team fight specifically around that blue buff, I just couldn't feel like there was ever a point in time that Cherryo was going to die.
I think that, Jeff, you actually brought it up multiple times. The amount of crowd control reduction that Cherryo was stacking in his build really came up huge for him in multiple times.
His build was just fantastic. Okay, you guys want to dump everything into me? That's fine. I'm a tank. I'm set up. I'm just here to be annoying and soak damage, and that's what he did.
The shell was just crucial so many times, bailing him out of sticky situations. And you called it as well here, that blink Artio being able to make the impact here. He was always at the right place at the right time.
All right. The best thing I was watching Cherryo do all game, he was just spamming Artio 3 on whoever had Blink. He was stopping, maybe he couldn't use Blink himself, but he was stopping their engage and forcing them to take weird paths to get in there on top of both hunters having oboe. They're just hitting creeps, it's just pinging around, and it's just ruining engages.
It was very difficult for EmilZy to really get the blinks off that he wanted to, because even if he was successful blinking into the backline there, it was easy for DeathPanter and Jermain to just jump away. And then if you're going to ulti the front line anyway, such resilient tanks in this mid to late game portion, you're not really providing the impact.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
It's super hard on Sylvanus when you can only ult tanks, right? You always want to be sitting on their carries, but when you're hitting tanks, it doesn't feel good.
Do you think that when Obey was actually pushing for that last Phoenix Siege, do you think that was necessary for them to close out the game, or do you think that that risk versus reward ultimately played against them?
I think what it was, all right, this is a 50-minute game. We finally found it, guys. Like, let's just get 3 Phoenixes and be done with it. But, I mean, they lost them the game going for the third.
CaptainTwig soloing out no numbers in the mid lane, opened the doors for those 2 Phoenixes. The third one was maybe a little bit too ambitious there. They paid the ultimate price. Ataraxia falling early in that exchange, and Ataraxia fell quite a few times in a lot of different exchanges as well, and I feel like he needs to change his positioning in this set.
He just has a hard time no matter what you do, right? Because when Izzy's out kind of on the back foot or even, if tanks want to go on you, they're going to find you. They're going to see where you stealth. They're just going to, W at you, and they're gonna get to you.
It just seems that Obey Alliance finally found a little bit of footing once they finally picked off Cherryo there around that Fire Giant. He was just a little bit too far forward from the rest of his teammates, and then they get the Fire Giant, but it just wasn't what they needed to get the W.
And when it comes down to both drafts, I mean, Hindi brought it up himself. He's like, neither side is going to be able to run this back in the slightest. What do you guys think needs to happen for Obey if they want to bring it back in game number 2?
I think they need to be more selective of how loosely they target out Cherryo, right? They dumped the Nemesis ultimate, the Raijin ultimate. Elevate played around PrettyPrime's Raijin flawlessly. There was never a point where he would find multiple members of Elevate clumped up.
So their early game was great. They focused targets, they focused the correct targets, they used the right amount of ults to kill people, but they kept doing it over and over. That's the issue. You get your lead, and then you bully the rest of the map. You go ruin the other parts of the game with your lead. That you can't just keep doing the same thing to the same player. They'll eventually adapt.
And the damage, look at those damage numbers here from that one game, 76,000. And this is only one player here. That's from a Raijin. Around the 50-minute mark, both collectively between PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia, they were over that 100,000 marker.
Prime actually was he's the guy saying, team, please respond. Like that's just one of those instances where anytime you're coming close to dealing 80,000 on Raijin, that's just absurd to a certain extent. But then again, it's also kind of expected because it's Prime's Raijin, and that's probably one of his best mid-main mages. But another thing I wanted to talk about was when you looked at Obey's draft and you talked about the focal points and how they were able to find the early picks onto Cherryo, why do you think we never really saw the ADCs being targeted out?
It's because with their comp, it's so easy for them to lock out the RDO, right? Like, that's what's in your face. That's what's easy. That's what you see. And you can, yeah, I'm just going to get this reward. We're just going to take this out. And then the ADCs are kind of the afterthought. But Artio's just in your face and she's blinking on you.
I mean, that's why you go 3 Guardians and double Hunters, right? You provide so much of a buffer that it's almost impossible to get into that double Hunter backline anyway. And Elevate drafted really well here, despite not having that magical damage for DeathPanter. It still worked out really well because he just dumped out those ultimates, creating not necessarily a damage threat, but more of a zoning mechanism, just slowing down Obey Alliance from ever chasing.
I think for me, the big thing was even after the phenomenal start that Obey had in the early game and all those picks onto Cherryo, there were a couple of Gold Fury dances that I feel just went a little bit too long. And Jeff, maybe you can emphasize on this a bit more from the pro player perspective. Why do you think Obey spent so much time kind of just hovering the area as opposed to committing objective or team fight?
I think they were really just looking for picks and for a 100% secure on gold, right? Like, I guess they have Izzy ult for secure. That's a pretty solid secure. But other than that, you don't want double ADCs walking in there like Hui bouncing, or comboing, and like maybe stealing that goal. I think they were just looking for fights.
And the way the European teams normally play, at least from what I see as a caster compared to North America, is their games generally tend to be a little bit longer. At the 30-minute mark, they were sitting around the mid 60,000 gold collectively as a team. And normally, yesterday, what I saw out of North America was, you know, they're already hitting their full build at that point. But between these two teams, they were just more interested about trying to dance around these objectives and waiting to see who pulls the trigger first.
And of course.